The monitors screamed a symphony of panic, each beep a hammer blow against Kate's fading consciousness. She was dying. She was alone. She was in labor with triplets, her body tearing itself apart to bring life into a world that had suddenly become a nightmare. Miles away, in their palatial Chicago home, her CEO husband, Damian Knight, was sliding a ring, a priceless family heirloom, onto the finger of his mistress. He was toasting his new life, just as hers was ending. But neither of them knew who was about to walk through the door. It wasn't a guest. It was a judge. And judgment was here. The first contraction hit Kate Hayes Knight like a freight train, stealing her breath and buckling her knees. She gripped the cold marble of the kitchen island, her knuckles white. She was only 34 weeks. Too soon. Far too soon. Just Braxton Hicks, she panted, to the empty, cavernous room. The penthouse at Night Tower was silent, as always. It was a glass box in the Chicago sky, and she was its loneliest specimen. This pregnancy had been a miracle. After years of clinical infertility, of Damian's barely concealed impatience, of him working late more often than he was home, the IVF had finally, shockingly, taken. Triplets. At first, Damian had seemed pleased. A knight, an heir, and a spare. He'd joked without a smile, but his pleasure quickly soured into annoyance. He recoiled from her swollen body, complained about her emotional state, and spent even more time at crucial board meetings. Kate wiped a clammy hand on her silk maternity robe. This was not Braxton Hicks. This was a deep, tidal pull, a pain that had teeth. She grabbed her phone, her fingers trembling so badly she almost dropped it. She dialed Damian. It rang once, twice, 3 times, then clicked. "You've reached Damian Knight. I'm in a critical meeting. Leave a message." "Damian, please," she gasped, as another wave crashed over her. "Damian, I think it's time. It's happening. The babies. They're coming. Please call me. I'm scared." She hung up and tried to time the contractions. They were already 5 minutes apart. Frantic, she dialed the only other number that mattered. "Chloe? It's time." Her best friend, Chloe Peterson, didn't ask questions. "I'm on my way. I'm 10 minutes out. Have your hospital bag by the door. I love you. Hang on." The drive to St. Jude's Mercy Hospital was a blur of rain-slicked streets and Kate's ragged breathing. Chloe held her hand, her own face pale with fear. "He didn't answer, did he?" Kate just shook her head, a single hot tear carving a path through her foundation. In the triage room, the world shrank to a chorus of beeps and probing questions. A stern but efficient nurse, Janice, on her name badge, strapped monitors to Kate's belly. 3 heartbeats, Janice said, her voice softening. "Faint, but they're fighters. Dr. Reed is on her way." "My husband," Kate panted. I need to reach my husband. Damian Knight." "We'll try him, honey," Janice said, patting her hand. "What's his number?" As Kate recited it, her own phone, sitting on the bedside tray, lit up. It wasn't a call from Damian. It was an Instagram notification. A tag. "Oh, look," Janice said, trying to distract her. "You've been tagged in a photo. Looks like a party." "Party?" Kate murmured, confused. Damian's in a meeting." "This tag is from Cynthia Knight," Janice said, squinting. "His sister." "Yes," Kate whispered. A cold, sharp dread, worse than any contraction, pierced through her. What is it?" Chloe, who had been filling out paperwork, walked over and picked up the phone. Her face went from concern to confusion, and then to a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. "Chloe, what is it?" Kate cried, trying to sit up. Chloe's voice was a lethal whisper. "Kate, She tagged him. At your house. She turned the phone around. It wasn't a meeting. It was a lavish black tie affair. Their penthouse, which had been silent and empty when she left, was now filled with hundreds of people, champagne towers and a banner. Kate couldn't make out the words. What? What does it say? Chloe's hand was shaking. It says, "Congratulations, Damian and Serafina." The name hit Kate like a physical blow. Serafina Vance, the new owner of the Vance Gallery on Michigan Avenue. The woman Damian had been mentoring. The woman he swore was just a colleague. In the photo, Damian was raising a glass, his arm wrapped tightly around Serafina's waist. She was wearing a stunning, backless silver dress. They were smiling. "No," Kate whispered. "No, it's a mistake. It's a business party." "Look closer, Kate," Chloe said, her voice breaking. She zoomed in. Around them, laughing and clapping, was Damian's entire family. His mother, who hadn't spoken to Kate in months, his sister, Cynthia, his business partners. And then, just as Dr. Evelyn Reed walked into the room with a grim expression, Kate saw it, on Serafina's left hand. It was the Knight family heirloom. The Star of Night, a staggering 10-carat blue diamond ring that had belonged to Damian's great-grandmother. The ring Damian had told Kate was being repaired at a vault in Switzerland for the last 2 years. The world tilted. The pain of the contraction was nothing compared to the agony in her chest. "Mrs. Knight? Kate?" Dr. Reed said, her voice sharp. "Your blood pressure is skyrocketing. We have a problem." Kate didn't hear her. She was staring at the photo, at the betrayal, at the public, humiliating execution of her life. He's giving her my ring," she whispered. And then, the central monitor, the one tracking her own heartbeat, let out a long, piercing single tone. The world went black. "We're crashing. Get her on her side. Get me a crash cart. Page the NICU. Tell them we have 3 preemies incoming, code magenta." Dr. Evelyn Reed's voice cut through the fog. Kate felt a sharp prick in her arm, a jolt of chemicals. The world swam back into a kaleidoscope of pain and panic. "Kate, can you hear me?" Dr. Reed's face was inches from hers. "Your BP bottomed out. It's a placental abruption, likely brought on by the shock. The babies are in distress, all 3 of them. We don't have time to wait. We have to perform an emergency C-section, right now. Do you understand? We have to save your babies." "Damian," Kate wept, her body shaking uncontrollably. He's not here." "I know, honey," Dr. Reed said, her voice firm but kind. "We're your family right now. We've got you." Chloe squeezed her hand, tears streaming down her face. "I'm right here, Kate. I'm not leaving." The ring," Kate sobbed, as they wheeled her gurney at a run down the hallway. "He gave her my ring." "Forget the ring, Kate," Chloe begged. You fight. You fight for those babies. You hear me? You live. You live and you make him pay." The operating room was a blur of sterile green and blinding light. An anesthesiologist, Dr. Benari, spoke to her calmly. "We're giving you a general anesthetic. You'll be asleep. When you wake up, you'll be a mum." As the mask descended over her face, Kate's last conscious thought wasn't of her children. It was of that photograph, of Damian's smile, a smile she hadn't seen directed at her in years. Miles away, the party at the Night Tower penthouse was in full swing. The jazz quartet was playing a breezy rendition of "The Way You Look Tonight." Damian Knight, tall, devastatingly handsome in a custom Tom Ford tuxedo, clinked his glass. "To Serafina," he said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "A woman who isn't afraid to take what she wants. A woman who matches my vision. My true partner. Serafina Vance, radiant, pressed a kiss to his cheek. Oh, Damian, you're making me blush. She was a shark in couture, and she knew she had finally won. She had spent the last year meticulously dismantling Kate's life, poisoning Damian against his mousy, infertile wife. She'd told him Kate was a gold digger, a weight on his ambition. She's barren, Damian, Serafina had purred just weeks ago. She'll never give you the heir your legacy deserves. Cut her loose. Start a real family. With me. The divorce is complicated, Damian had hedged. Then uncomplicate it, she'd insisted. And so he had. This party wasn't just a celebration. It was a public statement, a power move. By the time Kate found out, it would be a done deal. He'd have his lawyers serve her the papers in the hospital. He'd even planned it, claim she was unstable from the pregnancy, offer her a generous settlement to go away quietly. His PR team at Knight Industries was already spinning the narrative. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out. Kate, voicemail. He'd silenced her earlier call. He sighed, annoyed. He played the message, holding the phone to his ear, his smile never wavering for his guests. Damian, please. Damian, I think it's time. It's happening. The babies. They're coming. Please call me. I'm scared. His blood ran cold. Babies. Plural. He'd almost forgotten. He'd been so focused on Serafina, on the acquisition of a new tech firm, on this night, that his wife's high-risk pregnancy had become a distant, irritating buzz. Serafina saw the flicker in his expression. What is it, darling? He composed himself instantly. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, his face a mask of charm. Nothing, my love. Just a spam call. He took her hand. Now, I believe I have something for you. The music softened. The crowd hushed. Damian Knight dropped to one knee. Serafina Vance, he began, his voice resonating with rehearsed emotion. You are my future. You are my destiny. You are the woman I want to build an empire with. He reached into his pocket and produced a black velvet box. He opened it. The star of night glittered under the chandeliers, drawing a collective gasp from the crowd. Will you marry me? Serafina's eyes widened. She hadn't expected this. Not the heirloom. This was the ultimate prize. This meant she wasn't just a mistress. She was the matriarch. Yes, she breathed. Yes, Damian, 1,000 times. Yes. He stood, sliding the ring onto her finger. It was a perfect fit. The crowd erupted in applause. As he leaned in to kiss his new fiancée, his phone buzzed again. And again. And again. Missed call. Chloe Peterson. Missed call. Chloe Peterson. Missed call. St. Jude's Mercy Hospital. Missed call. Chloe Peterson. He ignored them all. He was Damian Knight. The world could wait. In the operating room, Kate was dying. She's hemorrhaging. The abruption is massive. Dr. Reed was elbow deep in blood. I've got baby A out. A boy. Get him to NICU. Stats? Viable, 3 pounds, 4 ounces. He's breathing. A nurse yelled. Baby B is out. Another boy. Go, go, go. Baby C is tangled. Cords around her neck. Dr. Benari, I'm losing her. Her pressure is non-existent. Vitals crashing, the anesthesiologist shouted. She's in V-fib. We're losing her. Forget the baby for a second. Dr. Reed roared. A terrifying choice no doctor ever wants to make. Get the paddles. I'm not losing this mother. Charge to 200. Baby C is out, another nurse cried, lifting a tiny, blue, motionless girl. No heartbeat. The room was a cacophony of clinical terror. One team was performing CPR on the tiny girl. Another team was holding electrified paddles over Kate's chest. Clear! Kate's body arched off the table. Nothing. Clear! Back at the penthouse, Damian and Serafina were cutting a towering 7-tier cake. The solid oak doors of the penthouse burst open with a crash that silenced the jazz quartet. A woman stood in the entryway, drenched from the rain, her mascara running in black rivers down her face. Her dress splattered with... Was that mud? It was Chloe. She had left the hospital the second she heard a nurse say, "We can't get a hold of the husband, and she's coding." She had left Kate's side, appointing her own mother, who had rushed to the hospital, to stand vigil, and driven like a maniac across town. She stood there, breathing like a wounded animal, her eyes scanning the crowd of glittering, horrified faces until they landed on Damian. He was still holding the champagne flute, Serafina clinging to his arm, her hand, that hand with that ring, held aloft. "You," Chloe whispered, her voice trembling with a rage so profound it was almost silent. "Chloe, what on earth?" Damian's sister, Cynthia, scoffed. "Security, get this thing out of here. She's ruining the party." "Chloe," Damian said, his voice low and dangerous. He set his glass down. "This is a private event. You are trespassing. Leave now, or I will have you arrested." "Arrest me?" Chloe laughed, a high, hysterical sound that chilled the blood. "You son of a bitch! You inhuman son of a bitch!" She stalked forward, shoving a waiter carrying a tray of appetizers. People scattered. "Serafina!" Chloe shrieked, pointing at her. "You know who he is? You know where his wife is?" Serafina looked at Damian, her perfect smile faltering. "Damian, what is she talking about? Wife? Your divorce was finalized. You told me." "She's lying. She's obsessed with Kate," Damian shouted, moving to grab Chloe's arm. Chloe wrenched away. "He's lying. His wife, Kate. Your name, I'm sure you know it, is at St. Jude's. She's been in surgery for 2 hours. She's in labor with his triplets." A wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the room. "Triplets? My God, is that true? I thought they were separated." "And she's dying," Chloe finally screamed, the word tearing from her throat. "They're losing her. She's hemorrhaging on a table while you... She pointed a shaking finger at the ring on Serafina's hand. While you put her ring on her." Serafina went ghost white. She looked from Damian's stony face to the ring on her hand. "Damian, is this true? Is she in labor?" "She's an unstable, dramatic woman. She's always been," Damian growled, his PR training kicking in. "This is a stunt to extract more money. Security!" 2 large men in black suits finally reached Chloe and grabbed her arms. "Get your hands off me!" Chloe fought, kicking. "He's a monster! He left her to die! He silenced her calls! I heard the voicemail! Damian, I'm scared! She's dying! Get her out!" Damian roared, his mask of civility finally shattering, revealing the cold, reptilian fury beneath. The security guards began dragging the screaming, fighting Chloe toward the elevator. The party was in chaos. Guests were grabbing their coats, their faces a mixture of disgust and horror. Damian's empire was built on an image of ruthless, clean power. This was messy. This was ugly. "Damian!" Serafina demanded, her voice rising. "Tell me she's lying." "It's being handled, Serafina," he hissed, grabbing her wrist. "Don't lose your nerve now." "Am I?" A new voice cut through the air. It was not loud. It was not hysterical. It was cold, precise, and held an authority that stopped everyone in their tracks. The security guards dragging Chloe froze. Everyone turned to the entryway. Standing where Chloe had been was a woman in her late 50s. She was not in a party dress. She was wearing a perfectly tailored black pantsuit, her grey-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun. She was flanked, not by partygoers, but by 2 uniformed Chicago police officers. Her eyes, the color of winter steel, swept the room, taking in the champagne, the cake, Seraphina's ring, and Damian's furious face. Damian, for the first time in his life, looked confused. He didn't recognize this woman. She stepped forward. "Damian Knight," her voice clicked. "Who are you?" he demanded. The woman smiled, a thin reptilian gesture that held no warmth. "My name is Althea Hayes." She paused, letting the name hang in the air. "Judge Althea Hayes, of the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals." She tilted her head. "And I am Kate's aunt." A silence so profound fell over the penthouse that the drip, drip, drip of Chloe's wet coat onto the marble floor echoed. Damian Knight's mind, usually 3 steps ahead, was stalled. Hayes. Althea Hayes. He'd heard the name once, years ago. Kate had mentioned an Aunt Althea who was in law. He'd pictured some small-town public defender. Not this. A federal judge. "Aunt Althea," Chloe choked out, sagging in the guard's grip. "Thank God. She's... Kate." "I know, Chloe," Althea said, her voice softening for just a moment. She nodded to the officers. "Let her go." The guards instantly released Chloe, who stumbled to Althea's side. "Judge Hayes, is it?" Damian said, recovering his swagger. He straightened his tuxedo. "This is a private residence. You and your associates are trespassing. This is a family matter." "It was a family matter, Mr. Knight," Althea said, taking a step forward. The officers mirrored her. "It became a legal matter 3 days ago. I believe you were served." "Served? I haven't been served anything," Damian scoffed. "Oh, you were," Althea said, with a slight, terrible smile. "At 9:15 a.m. this morning, to your office. A junior process server delivered it to your assistant, Mr. Cole. I have the signed receipt. Perhaps in the excitement of your party, you neglected to check your mail." Althea reached into her briefcase and pulled out a sheaf of documents. "This," she said, holding it up, "is an emergency ex parte injunction, filed by my niece, Kate Hayes Knight." Damian's blood ran cold. "It freezes," Althea continued, her voice clipping each word like a guillotine. "All marital assets, all joint accounts, all property, real and personal, pending a full audit and divorce proceedings. You see, Kate finally got tired of you telling her she was too stupid to understand the finances. So she asked me to look." She took another step. And I did. She looked past him, to Seraphina. "It also includes," she said, her voice dangerously pleasant, "a specific restraining order against the disposal, transfer, or encumbrance of marital property. That includes, but is not limited to, jewelry, art, and family heirlooms." Althea's gaze dropped with theatrical precision to the Star of Night ring on Seraphina's hand. "Miss Vance, I presume?" Althea said. Seraphina, who had been frozen, looked at her hand and then at Damian, her eyes wide with panic. "Damian, what is this?" "This is harassment," Damian blustered, stepping in front of Seraphina. "You can't do this. That ring is my family's." "It was your family's, Mr. Knight. It became marital property the moment you inherited it, while married to my niece, under Illinois state law. And you, Ms. Vance, are now in receipt of stolen goods, a fact that could make you party to a criminal investigation." "Criminal?" Seraphina whispered, her face ashen. She began to tug at the ring. "I didn't know. He told me they were divorced." "Officers," Judge Hayes said, her voice bored, "please retrieve the ring." "You will not," Damian roared. The 2 officers who had been silent moved. They were not penthouse security. They were Chicago police. They flanked Damian. "Sir, please step aside." "This is insane!" Seraphina shrieked, finally yanking the ring off her finger. It felt like it was burning her. "Take it. I don't want it. Damian, you liar." She threw the ring, not at the officers, but at Damian. It bounced off his chest and clattered onto the floor. Damian Knight, CEO of Knight Industries, watched as a uniformed officer bent down, picked up the $20 million ring, and dropped it into a sterile evidence bag. It was the most profound humiliation of his life, and it was just beginning. "Now that we have that sorted," Althea said, snapping the evidence bag shut herself, "we have a more pressing issue." Her entire demeanor changed. The cold legal precision vanished, replaced by a fury so white-hot it seemed to suck the air from the room. "Chloe," she said, turning to her, "tell me. Now." "Aunt Althea, I don't know," Chloe wept. "They called a code blue. They were using the paddles on her. And one of the babies, a girl, she wasn't breathing. I came here. I had to." Althea's iron composure finally cracked. Her face crumpled for 1 second, a mask of pure, agonizing grief. She turned back to Damian. He was staring at her, his mind spinning, trying to find a way out, an angle, a lawsuit. "You," Althea whispered, her voice shaking with rage. "You did this. It's a high-risk pregnancy," Damian spat. "These things happen. It has nothing to do with me." "It has everything to do with you," Althea roared, finally losing her judicial calm. "You ignored her calls. You are her emergency contact. You left her alone, terrified, to go into labor while you did this. That is willful, extreme, emotional distress. That is criminal negligence." She pointed at him. "Officers, detain Mr. Knight." "On what charge?" Damian yelled, as the officers grabbed his arms, pulling them behind his back with practiced, painful efficiency. "You can't. This is a civil matter." "The charge," Althea said, her voice returning to its icy calm, "is pending. But for now, let's start with the injunction you just violated by attempting to transfer the ring. And let's add suspicion of criminal fraud. You see, Mr. Knight, I wasn't just looking at your joint accounts. I was looking at the Hayes family trust." Damian froze. "The what? Did Kate never tell you?" "Oh, that's right. You told her she was new money and common. You never asked about her family, did you? You just saw a quiet girl you could mold." Althea leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. "My father, Kate's grandfather, founded that trust. And 30 years ago, he was the primary seed investor in a struggling tech startup. Your father's company, the Hayes Trust," she smiled, "owns 22% of Knight Industries. I am the executor of that trust. And you, Mr. Knight, have spent the last 6 months illegally liquidating assets and funneling them into offshore accounts under Ms. Vance's name." Damian's face went from red to a sickly, pale white. He had just been checkmated. He hadn't just betrayed his wife. He had been stealing from his own company's largest silent shareholder. "You," he whispered, staring at her, "are ruined. I'll have you disbarred. This is a conflict of interest." "It would be," Althea agreed, "if I were presiding over your case, which I am not. I am simply a private citizen and a majority shareholder witnessing a crime, and I am an aunt on her way to the hospital to see if her niece is alive or dead." She turned to the officers. "Get him out of my sight." As they dragged a stunned, silent Damian Knight past the remnants of his engagement party, past a weeping Serafina, Althea grabbed Chloe's arm. "Come on, we have to go. Now." The ride to St. Jude's was a silent torment. Althea sat in the back of her black sedan, her driver navigating the rainy streets with terrifying speed. Chloe, in the passenger seat, was numb, replaying the scene at the penthouse over and over. Althea, however, was in motion. Her judicial mask was back on, but it was the mask of a warlord, not a peacemaker. Her phone was to her ear. Marcus? Althea Hayes. I've got a situation. Yes, that kind. I have a party at Knight Tower, Damian Knight, who's currently en route to the 19th precinct. Yes, I'm sending you the injunction. I want a forensic accounting team on Knight Industries by 8 a.m. tomorrow. No, I'm not recusing. This isn't my case, it's my family. The charges are fraud, grand larceny, and if the worst has happened, we'll see. I'm on my way to St. Jude's now. I want a 24/7 police detail on the NICU and on Kate Knight's room. No one, and I mean no one, gets in without my express permission. Not his mother, not his sister, and especially not him. She hung up and immediately dialed another number. Arthur, wake up. I don't care. Get the board of Knight Industries on a conference call for 7 a.m. I'm calling an emergency shareholder meeting. Yes, I'm invoking the moral turpitude clause in the corporate charter. He's out. By 9 a.m., I want Damian Knight's resignation on my desk, or I will dissolve the company and sell it for parts. Don't test me, Arthur. Just do it. She snapped the phone shut, and finally, for the first time, looked at Chloe. Breathe, she commanded. How did you know? Chloe whispered. Kate, Althea said, her voice heavy. She called me 3 days ago, crying. He'd been so cruel. He told her the triplets were a liability to his brand, that he was disgusted by her. She found a credit card bill for a condo on the Gold Coast, a condo she'd never seen. That's when she finally broke. She told me everything. I've had a PI on him for 72 hours. I knew about Serafina. I knew about the accounts. I didn't know about tonight's engagement. The PI called me an hour ago, just as I got the alert from the hospital. They pulled up to the hospital's emergency entrance. Althea was out of the car before it stopped. They ran through the automatic doors to the surgical waiting room. Dr. Evelyn Reed was standing there, still in her blood-stained scrubs. Her face was a landscape of exhaustion and grief. Judge Hayes, she said. She's my niece, Althea said, grabbing the doctor's arm. Kate, tell me. Dr. Reed took a deep breath. It was catastrophic, a total placental abruption. We've never seen one that severe. We performed an emergency hysterectomy to save her. She lost an extraordinary amount of blood. We had to resuscitate her on the table. Twice. Is she? Chloe couldn't finish the sentence. She is alive, Dr. Reed said. Althea and Chloe both sagged against the wall in unison. She is alive, the doctor repeated, but she is not conscious. She is in a medically induced coma. We had to protect her brain from the lack of oxygen. The next 48 hours are critical. She is in very, very bad shape, Judge Hayes. I won't lie to you. And the babies, Althea said, her voice thick. Her babies. Dr. Reed's face broke into the first real smile of the night. They're fighters, just like their mother. 2 boys, 1 girl. Arthur, Alexander, and Alice. Kate picked the names with me last week. Alice, Althea whispered. She named her Alice, after my mother. They're preemies, Dr. Reed continued, but they're strong. 3 pounds, 4 ounces, 3 pounds, 2 ounces, and little Alice was the smallest, 2 pounds 9. She was the one who crashed. Her heart stopped. But my NICU team, they're the best. They got her back. They are all stable. They are in the NICU. You can see them. Althea nodded, the tears she'd refused to shed finally welling in her eyes. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for saving them. For saving her. Don't thank me yet, Dr. Reed said, her face hardening. We saved her. Now you save her from him. I saw her phone. I saw the calls he ignored. In 20 years, I've never seen such cruelty. You get him, Judge. You end him. Oh, Doctor, Althea said, wiping her eyes, her iron will snapping back into place. He's already over. Meanwhile, at the 19th precinct, Damian Knight was in an interrogation room, his $5,000 suit wrinkled. Across from him sat his lawyer, Arthur Warren, a silver-haired man who charged $2,000 an hour. "This is a joke," Warren was saying to Detective Marcus Thorne. "A marital spat. You have nothing." "I don't know, did it?" Thorne said, leaning back. He was a big man who enjoyed his job. A federal injunction, a 10-carat stolen ring, and... let's see. He slid a file across the table. Wire transfers, lots of them, from a joint marital account to a shell corp in the Caymans, which then transferred the funds to Vance Gallery, LLC, for the purchase of a 4-bedroom condo. That's not a marital spat, Mr. Warren. That's grand larceny. That's bank fraud. That's a lot of years. Damian, who had been silent, finally spoke. Kate, doesn't know anything about those. She doesn't have to, Thorne grinned. Her aunt does. And Judge Hayes just gave us a roadmap to every dollar you've ever hidden. Your life, Mr. Knight, is about to be put under a very, very large microscope. In another room, a much less expensive lawyer was sitting with a sobbing Serafina Vance. "He told me he was divorced," she wept. "He said she was unstable, that she'd been in a mental institution. He said she couldn't have children." The female detective taking her statement. "Debt." Riley just nodded sympathetically. "Of course he did, honey, and you just believed him. Now tell me about that condo. Tell me about the gifts he gave the gallery. Tell me everything, because right now you're looking at conspiracy to commit fraud. But you could be a witness. You could be the victim." Serafina's tears slowed. She was a survivor above all else. She had been played, she had been humiliated, and she had just lost a 10-carat blue diamond. "Get me a coffee," Serafina said, her voice hardening. "And a pen. I'll tell you everything. I'll burn him to the ground." The next 2 weeks were a strange, sterile purgatory. The world outside St. Jude's Mercy Hospital had exploded. "Nightfall. CEO arrested at own engagement party," screamed the cover of the Chicago Tribune. "Jilted wife in coma. Triplets fight for life," whispered the Post. Damian Knight's empire, built on an illusion of invincible power, crumbled like wet sand. He was out on bail, a staggering $10 million bond put up by his mother, who had to mortgage her own estate to cover it. But he was a pariah. The board of Knight Industries, led by a furious Arthur, the lawyer Althea had called, had convened. Faced with the 22% shareholder revolt from the Hayes Trust and the public, catastrophic moral turpitude violation, they voted unanimously. Damian Knight was stripped of his title, his salary, his seat on the board. He was locked out of the building he had built. Serafina Vance, true to her word, had given a blistering 40-page deposition to Althea's lawyers and the district attorney. She painted a portrait of a narcissistic sociopath who had manipulated her, lied to her, and used her as a pawn to destroy his wife. She detailed every illegal transfer, every whispered lie about Kate's instability. In exchange for her testimony, the DA granted her immunity, a deal that made Althea's stomach turn, but one she accepted as a necessary evil. Serafina promptly sold her story to a national magazine for 6 figures, packed her bags, and left the country. But inside the hospital, none of this mattered. There was only the rhythmic whoosh of the ventilator in Kate's room and the soft, steady beeps from the 3 incubators in the NICU. Althea Hayes had effectively moved into the hospital. She had a cot set up in Kate's private room, now guarded by 2 cops, and spent her days divided between her niece's bedside and the NICU. Kate was unchanged, pale, still, her body a road map of tubes and wires. "She's stable," Dr. Reed would say every morning. "But she's not waking. We're weaning the sedation, but she's not responding. It's up to her now." Althea would sit by the bed for hours, holding Kate's limp hand, reading to her, not fiction, but legal documents. "Kate," she'd say, her voice low and clear. "The DA is proceeding with 5 counts of fraud and 2 of grand larceny. We've filed for divorce on your behalf. We're suing for sole custody. You don't have to worry about a thing, my dear. I have it all." She'd brush the hair back from Kate's face. "But we need you to wake up. Alice, little Alice. She needs you. She's so small, Kate, but she's so angry. She has your fire. Arthur and Alexander, they're identical. They're calm. But Alice, she's a fighter." Then she would go to the NICU. She and Chloe would sit for hours, hands scrubbed raw, practicing kangaroo care. Althea would hold tiny, fragile Alice against her chest, the baby so small she fit entirely in her hand. "Hello, little judge," Althea would whisper. "Your mummy loves you. She is fighting for you, and I will never, ever let anyone hurt you. You have the Hayes blood. You are steel." On the 10th day, a new crisis. Damian Knight's mother, Eleanor Knight, arrived with an army of lawyers. They were petitioning for visitation. "They are my grandchildren," she shrieked in the hospital lobby, a woman who had never known a moment of hardship. That woman is holding them hostage." Althea met them in the lobby, her face like a thundercloud. "Mrs. Knight," Althea said, her voice dangerously quiet. "Your son Damian is not on the birth certificate." Kate, in her wisdom, refused to sign it until after the birth, as she is incapacitated. And the babies were born of an IVF procedure paid for by her trust fund, a lie but a brilliant one. Your son currently has 0 parental rights, and you, by extension, have none. You are strangers. "How dare you?" Eleanor sputtered. "Get off the grounds of this hospital," Althea said. "If you or any of your lawyers attempt to enter the NICU, you will be arrested for trespassing." Eleanor looked at the 2 armed officers behind Althea and knew she was beaten. She left, screaming threats of lawsuits. Althea returned to Kate's room. She was exhausted. She slumped into the chair, the weight of the last 2 weeks crushing her. "Kate," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I am so tired, and I am so angry. I can't do this alone. You have to wake up. Please, Kate, wake up and come meet your children." She laid her head on the bed, her shoulders shaking, and for the first time, she wept. She felt a flicker. She thought she'd imagined it. A tiny, feather-light movement against her hair. She sat up. Kate's hand, which had been limp for 10 days, was twitching. "Kate?" Althea breathed, her heart pounding. Kate's eyelids fluttered. Her parched lips parted. A sound, barely a whisper, a dry, rasping breath. Ice," Kate whispered. Althea hit the nurse's call button, tears streaming down her face. "She's awake, doctor! She's awake!" Kate's eyes, cloudy with medication, struggled to focus. They found her aunt's face. "Aunt! Althea?" she rasped. "I'm here, my love," Althea sobbed, squeezing her hand. "I'm right here." Kate's eyes filled with a sudden, sharp terror. The memory, the party, the ring, the pain. "My babies!" she cried, a raw, panicked sound. "Are my babies? Are they alive?" "Yes," Althea choked out, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, Kate, they're beautiful. They're perfect. Arthur, Alexander, and Alice. and they're waiting to meet their mother. The next 6 months were a blur of recovery and rebirth. Kate's body had been ravaged, and her journey back was arduous. The C-section scar was the least of it. It was the nerve damage from the hemorrhage, the brutal muscle atrophy from being bedridden, the exhaustion that felt bone deep. She spent the first month in the hospital, moving from the ICU to a rehabilitation wing. Her first trip to the NICU was the turning point. Althea and Chloe wheeled her in, an IV stand trailing beside her. Seeing them, 3 tiny, perfect humans in their plastic boxes, broke something open in her. This was why she had survived. She reached a trembling hand into the isolette, brushing her finger against Alice's tiny, grasping fist. "Hello, my love," she whispered, tears she didn't know she had left to cry rolling down her cheeks. "Mummy's here." She was discharged from the hospital, not to the cold penthouse at Night Tower, which was being seized by the banks, but to a warm, sun-filled brownstone in Lincoln Park, rented by Althea, complete with a full-time nursing staff and 3 identical bassinets. Her days became a cycle of 3 a.m. feedings, physical therapy sessions that left her screaming in frustration, and legal meetings. The media, sensing a new chapter, was relentless. But Althea formed a protective shield around the brownstone. No comment was the only comment. Kate learned the full scope of Damian's betrayal, the fraud, the years of lies, the depths of his sociopathy. She learned that he had, through his mother, filed a motion to establish paternity, claiming he was desperate to know his children. "He will never touch them," Kate told Althea, her voice, once soft, now honed to a sharp edge. "I know," Althea replied. "Now, let's get you ready for court." The trial was set for a cold Tuesday in April. It was 2 trials, really. The criminal case against Damian Knight for fraud, and the family court hearing for the divorce and custody, scheduled back-to-back in the same courthouse, a strategic move by Althea's legal team. Kate arrived, not in a wheelchair as she had feared, but walking, slowly, with the assistance of a simple black cane. She wore no makeup, her hair was pulled back, and she looked, not like a victim, but like a survivor. The criminal courtroom was packed. Damian Knight sat at the defendant's table, a shadow of the man he had been. He was thinner, his expensive suit hung on him, and his eyes were dull. He had lost everything. The Knight Industries Board had not only fired him, but was suing him civilly for the $50 million he had defrauded from the company. His mother's estate was gone, eaten by legal fees. He was, for the first time in his life, poor. Serafina Vance was the state's star witness. She testified, cool and collected, detailing Damian's plots, his lies about Kate, his scheme to hide the assets until the crazy wife was dealt with. Damian's defense was feeble. His lawyer, a court-appointed public defender, tried to paint him as a man under extreme corporate stress who had a momentary, profound lapse in judgment. The jury was out for less than an hour. On the count of grand larceny, guilty. On the count of bank fraud, guilty. On the count of wire fraud, guilty. Damian didn't even flinch. He just stared ahead. The judge, a man who had seen it all, looked at Damian with utter contempt. "Mr. Knight, you are a black hole of narcissism. You didn't just steal money. You attempted to steal a woman's life, her dignity, and her children. I sentence you to the maximum allowable, 15 years in a state penitentiary. No parole." A gasp went through the room. Damian's mother collapsed. Damian stood, and as they cuffed him, he finally looked at Kate. His eyes were not remorseful. They were filled with pure, cold hatred. You did this to me," he hissed. Kate met his gaze. She said nothing. She simply stood, turned, and walked out, her cane thudding with finality on the marble floor. She went straight up to the 14th floor. Family court. This room was quieter. It was just her, Althea, her lawyers, and Damian's public defender. Damian himself was piped in via a video feed from the courthouse holding cell. "Your Honor," Kate's lawyer began, "we are petitioning for a dissolution of marriage and a termination of parental rights." "Objection," Damian's defender said. "Mr. Knight wishes to establish paternity. He wants a relationship with his children. A relationship he can't have, as he's just been sentenced to 15 years, the judge, a sharp woman named Judge Diaz, noted dryly. "Kate!" Damian's voice crackled over the speaker. He was trying to sound broken. "Kate, please, don't do this. They're my children, my blood. You can't take my children from me." Kate, who had been silent, stood up. She walked to the podium, gripping it with both hands. "Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and strong, echoing in the quiet room. "For 3 years, Damian Knight told me I was barren. He told me I was worthless because I could not give him an heir." She looked directly at the camera screening Damian's face. "When a miracle happened, he was disgusted. When I was carrying his 3 children, he was inconvenienced. And when I was on a table, bleeding to death," her voice broke just for a second, "he was at a party, putting a ring on another woman's hand. He silenced my calls. He ignored my terror." She took a breath. "A man who wants a relationship with his children does not leave their mother to die alone. A man who wants his blood does not try to steal their inheritance before they are even born." She looked at Judge Diaz. "He doesn't have children, Your Honor. He has a liability. He made his choice. This isn't taking anything from him. It's acknowledging the abandonment he perfected on the night of their birth." The silence in the room was absolute. Judge Diaz looked at the screen. "Mr. Knight, given your felony conviction for defrauding your wife, and, by extension, your own children, and given the testimony of extreme cruelty and abandonment, this court finds you an unfit parent. The petition to terminate your parental rights is granted. Sole custody is awarded to the mother, Kate Hayes. The divorce is finalized. Ms. Hayes, you are free." Kate closed her eyes. The thud of the gavel was the sweetest sound she had ever heard. 1 year later, the Chicago spring was defiant, bursting with cherry blossoms and a defiant, warm breeze off the lake. A triple-wide stroller was being pushed along the path in Lincoln Park, expertly navigated by Chloe. Beside her, walking without a cane, was Kate. She was glowing. The gaunt, haunted look was gone. She was strong, her arms muscled from holding 3 growing babies. In the stroller, Arthur, Alexander, and Alice, now 18 months old, babbled at the ducks. "So," Chloe said, sipping an iced coffee. "Dr. Benari from the hospital, the cute anesthesiologist. He finally asked me out." "It's about time," Kate laughed, a sound that was now easy and frequent. "What did you say?" "I said I'd have to check my schedule. My best friend is a single mum to 3 toddlers. I'm a very busy woman." "Liar," Kate grinned. "You're free on Friday." "Go." "Fine," Chloe huffed, smiling. They sat on a bench, and Althea Hayes, dressed in casual weekend clothes, joined them, holding a bag of bread crusts for the ducks. "Look at them," she said, her voice full of a softness no courtroom had ever heard. "Alice is already trying to boss her brothers around." "She gets it from you, Auntie," Kate said, leaning her head on Althea's shoulder. Kate's life was full. The brownstone was no longer a rental. She'd bought it. The massive settlement from the liquidation of Damian's assets, every dollar he'd hidden, which Althea's team had found, had been placed into a trust for the children. She was, by any measure, an extraordinarily wealthy woman, but her real wealth was cooing in the stroller. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it, smiling. It was Dr. Evelyn Reed. "Just my routine check-in," Kate said, answering. "Hi, Evelyn." "Kate, how are my miracle babies?" The doctor's warm voice came through. "They're plotting to take over the park," Kate said. "And how are you?" "Busy, but I saw the news. The Hayes Knight Foundation for Maternal Health. Your first wing just opened at St. Jude's. That's quite a thing you're doing, Kate." Kate watched as Althea helped Alice throw a piece of bread. "It's the least I can do. You saved my life. Now I get to help you save others." They talked for a few more minutes, and Kate hung up. She looked at the Chicago skyline, the night tower still visible, but it was just a building now. A scar, like her C-section, that had faded. It no longer hurt. It was just a reminder of what she'd survived. He sent a letter," Kate said quietly, her first time mentioning him in months. Althea and Chloe both tensed. "From prison?" Chloe asked. "Yes. It was pathetic, full of self-pity. My legacy is gone. My name is ruined. Not once did he ask about the children. Not once did he say, 'I'm sorry.' He's incapable of it," Althea said simply. "I know," Kate said. She reached into her bag, pulled out the unopened letter, and tore it into pieces. She stood up and tossed them into a nearby trash can. "He's not our story anymore, Auntie. He's not even the beginning. He was just the complication." She turned back to her children, who were all reaching for her, their hands outstretched. She laughed, a sound of pure, unadulterated joy, and knelt to kiss each one. "Mummy's here." Kate's story is a brutal, heart-stopping reminder that the brightest lives can hide the darkest secrets. She walked through the fire of betrayal, negligence, and near death, and she didn't just survive. She re-emerged, stronger, to build a new life for her 3 miracles. She reclaimed her name, her power, and her future, proving that the deepest wounds can give way to the most powerful purpose. What did you think of Kate's revenge? Was her Aunt Althea a hero, or did she go too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This story took an incredible amount of emotion to tell. If Kate's fight for survival and justice moved you, please show your support by hitting that like button. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life dramatic stories every single week. Thank you for listening.